Hi, my name is Meredith. Welcome back to another video. I have finished my NaNoWriMo book, finally. I was supposed to finish this book before Christmas, and that didn't happen mostly because it was wildly bigger than I thought it would be. It's time to celebrate anyway. I finished a book and it was so much fun. I completely fell in love with it when I was so not into it in the beginning. The final word count is 155,000 words. So I wrote like 51,000 words in November, like 53 or 4,000 words in December, and then 47,000 words so far in January. So it has been a really heavy drafting period. And before then, I did the exact same thing, like literally almost exactly the same thing in August, September, October. So I have been drafting 50,000 words per month for 6 months on two completely different projects. They're in different genres. It has been insane, and I have had like the best time of my life. Because I lean towards discovery writing, the drafting process is so creative. It's so much fun. It's when I'm like the most engaged in my story. However, I am so happy to be done with drafting. Yesterday, I wrote from like 7 a.m. until like 2 p.m. It was kind of just one of those time warp moments when you don't even really know what's going on or that time is passing. And it was really just exactly how I love to end books, is just kind of on like a high of this is my story and it's finally being realized here on the page. And I definitely felt that yesterday, and I'm still feeling that today. It feels really surreal that it's over. I tend to get really sad when I finish projects, so I am happy that I have a lot of stuff lined up in the coming weeks. And basically, I'm just going to take a couple days, kind of recover from the craziness, and read books, paint, just do some fun stuff, clean my entire house, just kind of get back in touch with friends and stuff. Oh my gosh, I really did the whole hermit thing, but it's also going to be fun to take a break for just a couple days while I kind of get over the story, do a little bit of story hangover therapy, and then we'll jump into my tasks for the rest of the year. But first, I want to show you a mini vlog of me doing just a couple reactions throughout the process of drafting it, and I will show them to you here. Yesterday, I wrote 6,000 words of my book, and I hesitate to say, but I think it's true, that this was my best writing day I have possibly ever had. I don't actually know if that's factual, but it feels that way. I hate that this book isn't done yet, but also I'm having the best time ever, so what you gonna do? Honestly, my character got kind of lost in the dark night of the soul, and I think that that's what happened to me too. I was like, girl, you are depressing me. I don't want to write this right now. So I kind of got slowed down, but we got out of it. The aha moment hit. We picked up our resolve, and we are now on to Act 3 very, very solidly. So we're doing good. Today's writing was so much fun. The thing I really love about writing endings is that emotions are so complex and complicated, and everybody's like kind of a mix of happy and sad, and it's just great. So I had a lot of fun writing today. I've already written like 3,400 words. We are gathering the team. We're making a plan. They're gonna head to the climax. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun. We did it. Yeah, so that's about how the process went. It's definitely such a rush to finish a book and to get to all that payoff. In terms of how good I think the draft was, I think that it started out really rough, and so it's going to need a lot of revisions in the beginning. And what I love is the bad guys close in. Like, I was just like having a blast with that whole section where all the lies were coming out, and lots of high emotions. It was really fun. Yeah, the all is lost was just amazing. I found an idea for the finale like right before I wrote it that I think made it so much better, that it was like 100 times better than it could have been. And yet it still just didn't come out quite the way that I'd wanted. Like, there was a feeling to it that wasn't quite what I'd hoped. So it's going to take revision, but it's fine. And I was just like, I just have to get this down. And I really like the ending. I think the ending is awesome, and it's just exactly what I've pictured for literally years. Like, it's so I don't know, it feels amazing to actually have that out of my brain. So that's all the updates on the book. I would now like to go through a couple lessons learned about the book writing process and just different things that I learned from finishing my third book ever. Where are we in the process of growing as a writer? But let's get into it. This is specific to myself, so maybe you relate to this, but these are just things that I'm like, okay, I need to do this better next time. Number one is how important setting is for me as a writer. I'm very visual as a person, and so when I'm trying to come up with scenes, everything is happening here in images. And if I can't visualize the setting, then I don't get those images and I don't get those plot ideas. There's such a huge difference between the book that I wrote for my first project and this book. I still have a bit of white room syndrome with the world that the first project that I've worked on is set in, and that's a huge problem for me. But it's actually something I did really well in this book, which is that I had a setting that I completely was in love with and could see in my head. And I think that's part of the reason why this process of writing went so much faster, because I could think of plot ideas. The difference between those two projects is so stark, and it makes me realize that setting is so important to me. Number two, I need to find the right external obstacles to spur on the right character growth moments. And I tend to just plot what is logical in that situation, but there's more to it. And so that's something that I learned throughout this book was I got really, really good at figuring out the right obstacles for that change during the midpoint and bad guys close in. But in the fun and games, they're not as tailored to what the character needs to learn and they don't push her enough. And so I need to change some of those obstacles in order to help her along this journey. And I think that's why it helps so much to start with character, because if you have plot flow from what is going to help the character grow, then you have a story right there. And if you have these plot events that might be cool but unconnected to the character and it's not personal to them and they're just kind of going along for the ride, then there's just so much lost. And you could have a lot more meaning if you tailor the external to what needs to happen internally. The third thing that I learned about storytelling from this is about the pantser versus plotter debate. I now know how to plot in a lot of detail, and yet it's still so hard. I don't know anything about the story concretely until I start writing it, and then it just comes together. And so, what really helps me is to know the really big moments beforehand, but the details I just can't get down on paper. Like, they don't come to me. And that makes me firmly believe that I'm a person who's just on the pantser end of the spectrum. I want to become more and more like a plotter and more able to do that. And so I want to hone that skill, even if it doesn't come naturally. And I don't want to stifle myself because I just decide that I'm a pantser and I can't plot. So I'm going to plot as much as I possibly can and become better at it, but know that I have the tendency to want things to come together while I'm in the action of writing, and that's where my brain does its best work. And so taking all of these things into consideration is good, because I think that optimizing my process for how my brain actually works rather than how I want it to work is going to give me the best result. So, have not solved the debate, but I'm learning more and more about myself. The next things are more personal realizations rather than like specifically writing craft. So here we go. Number one, I should not take breaks when I'm in the middle of drafting, especially when I have a lot of momentum. During the process of writing this book, I took 2 10-day to 2 week, somewhere around there, breaks. And those killed my momentum. I hated it. I did not want to stop, but I had to because we had Thanksgiving and then we had Christmas. And for Thanksgiving, I got super sick afterwards for a long time. And then for Christmas, I was at my family's the whole week, the whole time. There was just no way to write during that time. So I took 2 breaks that effectively erased my mind of the momentum of the story, of the details of the story, of the excitement for the story, my belief in the story. Getting back into the mindset afterwards, I was always in a writing slump because I was just like, I don't believe in this, and I have to shove myself back into the story in order to believe in it. So if I am drafting and I know that I'm going to be drafting for a while, I need to try as best as I can to not take long breaks. The next one is that having finished a book in the past gives me so much confidence about writing books in the future. And like, it's so much fun, like proving to myself over and over that I can do this. Because every time I start a project, I have this thought of like, wow, this is so big. How can I possibly finish this? And every time I finish something, that confidence builds more and more. And it's not just in like my ability to write that many words, but it's more in my ability that the story will come together. Now, twice I've watched things just wrap themselves up and become something alive and breathing. And I'm like, I think that this is a process I can keep repeating. And I'm really starting to kind of brush off that feeling of like, I just can't do this. This doesn't work. It's not going to come together. All of the hiccups along the way, all of the discouragement, all of the feeling like I will never figure out what plot piece needs to go here, like it will come eventually. We'll figure it out. And just being at this point in my process where I've done it enough times to have trust in myself that I will figure it out is such a good place to be. And then the last thing is that even though I've just said all this positive stuff about my book and my experience, there are some things that I'm really disappointed with. I think the point here is to realize that it's okay to be disappointed with the way your first draft turned out. And I was writing parts of the finale and I was like, I will end up rewriting this because this is not how I wanted this. And this is not the feeling that I expected. And so that's fine because again, all a first draft has to do is exist. That is its job. It's just to be on the page and to be out of my head, out of your head. So if you're disappointed with the way that some things turned out, that's okay. And that's pretty much completely to be expected. And so there are like negative emotions that come with finishing a project and for it to not be what you wanted. And then there are also positive emotions of realizing that all the thoughts you did have, they're there now. You can go away, and when you come back, it'll all be there. You've done your job, even if it's not how you wanted it to be. All I have to do is just get out a version, and it won't stay like this. It'll be a different version by the time anybody else sees it, and that's okay. Those are the things that I learned from finishing my third book. And now I get to go on to a new stage, which is seriously editing these things into projects that I am really proud of. I am proud of them, but they're not ready for other people to read yet. I think that's everything for this video. I just wanted to take a moment and commemorate the event and talk about the experience a little bit. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to see more from me. And happy writing! I hope that you are finishing your projects and excited about them and ready to learn more as a writer. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.